Good morning. We've got Jeff Mannion here from the Entrepreneur Source. How you doing today, Jeff?
Good. How are you? How are
I'm
you?
doing, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. I was telling you before I actually made it out of my house today. We've got a pretty bad winter happening here, so I'm glad that we were able to connect.
And like I told you, you got to move to Florida.
I know. Yes, someday, maybe. Well, great. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm glad we were able to connect. So, as you know, I've got a few questions here for you. So, how about you just start by telling me a little bit about your background and what has inspired you to become a franchise coach?
Sure, absolutely. I come from the hospitality industry, and I've been fortunate to have been with some brands like Disney and Marriott. Actually, Five Guys Burgers and Fries, which I know are in Canada. In fact, I opened the first international one there in
Oh, wow.
Canada. Yeah, way back in the day, but help build that brand. And um, when COVID hit, I found myself not working and being in hospitality and restaurants. And I
Okay.
got a phone call from a coach from the Entrepreneur Source, and the rest is history. I was very taken. The model checked a lot of boxes for me, and I'm able to help people. I did have some experience with franchising in the restaurant space on the franchisor side, so I fully understood kind of I think both sides.
Hmm.
And yeah, and so I get to create kind of a safe space or an educational environment for people to explore whether business ownership is for them and or if there's something out there that might be a vehicle to take them into their future. So,
Hmm. That's great. That's great that someone reached out to you during the pandemic to kind of show you what else was out there. So,
yeah.
I guess when working with clients, what is your whole process when it comes to understanding what their goals are, what their skills are, and what their financial needs are before even recommending franchise options?
So the entrepreneur source is a very unique business model because our goal is really to educate. And so when I get up in the morning, my thought is, who can I help today? Who can I help get unstuck? People are released from roles, whether it's a reduction in force, they don't feel happy with their progress. There's a litany of reasons why people will seek something other than their current W-2 situation.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, clients that I interact with haven't even ever thought of self sufficiency as an option. So I take a very personalized approach. It starts with a deep, very open ended, or very open ended conversations to understand, what their why is. To try to understand, people are not just work or personal. We're very holistic in terms of our, you know, who we are as human beings. And so I'm able to kind of dig deep and really understand what their north star is, and help see if something might resonate with them. In terms of financial comes later. I don't pre-qualify people. I'll work with anybody because if I can help
Hmm.
somebody get unstuck regardless of their outcome, it's a win-win situation. And so financial funding, that type of education comes later in the process. But I do have some tools that I use. A third-party executive assessment tool generates a very lengthy report all about the client, and that's where we start. That and some goals, and we do a deep dive on short and long-term goals and really understand where they want to be.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I've never really heard anyone that talks about the financials kind of a little bit later. So that is interesting. Um, Now, how would you evaluate and vet a franchise before recommending them to the client? Like, what criteria is most important to you?
So that's an interesting question because I don't vet businesses. I am, the entrepreneur source. That's part of their role as an organization, and any given time I'm working with over 200 businesses in at least 30 industries, and so there's a
Hmm.
there's a plethora of opportunity out there, and I really think it's important, primarily to understand where somebody is right now and where they want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Some folks are looking for more of a lifestyle. Some folks are looking for they need to catch up on income. They're approaching they're old like me, and they're approaching a certain age where they realize that their income production is going to lessen. Or unfortunately, ageism exists, and sometimes people will
Yeah.
age out of position. So really, I don't vet them. However, what I do is I listen to all of the information that I gather through clients that I work with, and there are certain characteristics of each of the businesses. So if somebody wants something that is less of an investment, then that might be a service-based business. That might be a mobile business. If somebody is looking to build quite a bit of equity, that might be something that's brick and mortar that allows them to really expand to a great degree. So I think it's really important to understand the client's income goals, lifestyle goals, and then dig deep later on down the line into wealth and equity and really understand what they're trying to create for themselves.
Yeah, lots to look at, lots of conversation to be had, all that kind of stuff. Now, what's an example of a challenging client placement? And then, how did you kind of work through that to find that client of yours a good franchise fit?
There are many. I'm trying to think of one specifically. A client who had been laid off, which happens pretty frequently. Laid off after a long corporate career, and he was a high earner. He was earning quite a bit of money, and was hesitant to take the leap into business ownership. So when we met, his goal was to maintain his executive level, his C-suite level in another organization. And so, through kind of an educational process, I was able to help him understand and maybe shift his paradigm a bit to understand that W-2 is not the only way to go. Even though we're taught that we're taught go to school, go to trade school, get an education of some sort, put your ladder up against a career and climb. And then
Mm,
some people wake up at whether it's 35, 40, there's no age, but
yeah.
people wake up and say, is my ladder against the proper building, if you will, or the proper structure?
Yeah.
And so he realized that he was probably very could be very effective as a business owner. And so we found something that was fairly low overhead and strong margins, which resonated with him and his wife.
Oh,
And
good.
he ended up choosing a business in the senior care industry that really matched his passion. And that's the other thing is, you have to understand if people are mission driven, you
Yeah.
want to certainly share something or some models with them that have a mission. And that mission could be a function of the business or actually could be a byproduct of the business. So they could do charitable work or something as a byproduct of the business. So, but for him, it was he had a definitely had an altruistic bent. He and his wife both, and so senior care seemed to resonate with them. So I don't know that that was super challenging, other than the sense of trying to help him understand his mindset and a mindset
Right.
shift.
But yeah, that is definitely a challenge, I would say, because yeah, some people aren't really sure. They don't know, where they want to go. So it's good to be able to help them figure that out for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you tailor your approach for clients with varying financial situations or business backgrounds? I know you don't kind of get into that until a little bit later on. So when that time comes, like what is your approach?
Yeah, I think one thing I would certainly say at the top of for that question is that I don't pre-qualify anybody. Like I
Mhm.
said earlier, I want to work with people who are potentially stuck. Maybe they have a bad boss, maybe they're in a toxic work environment, or maybe they've been let go, and try to meet them where they are. So there's no pre-qualification. I'll work with anybody that has a desire to put in the work, because what people put into this journey of discovery, if you will, is they'll get out of it what they put into it, right? So
Yep.
it's really, like I said, meeting people where they are. So some clients may have limited capital, and that's something that would potentially come out in the process. But I would focus on franchises with a lower investment level
Yep.
for them, like service based or mobile. For folks with extensive business experience, we can look at opportunities that allow them to leverage their skills. And realistically, everybody has transferable skills that they bring to the table. Oftentimes, we feel as though we're pigeonholed, and or society will pigeonhole us into a specific industry. But the reality of it is, all of us have plenty of transferable skills that are germane to many different industries and many different business structures. So my goal is really to guide them toward options that align with their unique goals and
Mhm.
resources. So,
Yeah. Again, I mean that yeah, that's a pretty interesting place to start. Yeah. I mean, I haven't spoke with anyone that does kind of go about it that way, but I'm sure you do kind of leave it open to meet a lot more people that way and come out with a lot more, like happy endings. So kind of leads into my next question. Is there a particular story of a client that did choose the right business for them and they did find their success? Like how good would that have made you feel to be able to help someone fulfill their dream of getting into business for themselves?
I think that that starts with, and I think I mentioned this earlier. I look at what I do as essentially helping people. So my mission, if you will, and it's maybe a mission I prescribe to myself for my own needs, but
Yeah.
my mission is to help people. And
Yeah.
through helping people, there will be some that will gravitate toward their end conclusion, which is self sufficiency. There are others that will realize that they're best suited to stay engaged in a more of a W 2 scenario, at least for
Mhm.
now. And timing could be part of that. I would say, just kind of generically, I can't think of a specific story, but I will tell you generically um, that the number of people that I have communicated with that have gone into business for themselves, um, when people call you out of the blue or send you an email out of the blue and say, "You've changed the trajectory of my life." I oftentimes do that with my coach that brought me into the entrepreneur
Yeah.
force. And I thank him all the time for really changing the trajectory of my life. So I would
Yeah.
say, kind of just generically, there's many stories I could pull, no
Yeah.
matter what their outcome really was.
Yeah. Lots of good feelings. So yeah,
Mhm.
being able to help someone, like you said, change the trajectory of their life, like that's got to feel good. You've got the tools, you can help them, and otherwise that's not something they would have been able to figure out on their own. So,
Well, and I think you got to start with a service mindset.
mhm,
I mean, in life in general, just philosophically, I think you got to start with a service mindset, and then from
mhm.
there, you can explore and you can figure out where to go with that. So,
Right, right, yes, for sure. Now, how about some of the most common misconceptions that clients might have about franchising? How do you address that?
I would say about franchising, but business in general, business
Yeah.
ownership in general. I
Mhm.
think there are some clients out there that have a misconception that specifically franchising is just like fast food, or
Yeah,
that it requires millions and millions of dollars to get
yeah,
started. And the reality is that there are plenty of franchises in, as you well know, virtually every industry, from
yeah.
home services to senior care to consulting, many with relatively low startup costs. Um,
Mhm.
I would say probably another misconception is that franchising is easy. Business ownership is not easy,
No.
and it's not passive. And don't get me wrong, there are investment strategies out there, but the reality of it is, anybody that comes to me and says that they want to start something passively, I don't know that I'll be able to assist them, because
Right.
there is work that needs to be involved.
Mhm.
And nothing is guaranteed. I mean, the systems are proven
Yep.
over time, and success still requires a commitment and effort. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And I
Yep.
really address these by educating clients about the broad range of possibilities and opportunities, and really ensure that they understand what it takes to thrive in a constructed environment that they can kind of step into and exist within that environment, and become ultimately successful, ideally.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree with you about the misconceptions there. Those are some that I hear all the time. You need a
Mhm.
million billion dollars. It's all food, and it's yeah, you're in a franchise, so like it's pretty easy. Everything's set up. You just have to pay for it. I don't know, but yeah, no, like you said, what you get back what you put into it, and everything takes work. It might be simple because you have everything, you have all the tools and everything kind of right there with you. You've got the support, but it's not easy. Definitely not.
Well, and another thing I would add to that, and you made me think of this, is the fact that when you go into a structured environment, oftentimes people have a perception that the guardrails are going to be super narrow, and they
Mhm.
are in certain businesses. I mean, using food as an example, if you're making a, let's say, a hamburger in Los Angeles, and you better make it the same burger in Miami, Florida, and in Canada, and
Yeah.
wherever. However, there are plenty of business models out there that have wider guardrails and allow one to be creative within a structured environment, which I think a lot of
Hmm.
people gravitate toward.
Yes. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Well, with all that being said, Jeff, that's all the questions that I had for you. So it was great to kind of get to know a little bit more about you and how you kind of operate in your processes in your business and help people. So I really appreciate your time today. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, we'll chat again soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye. I wish the end recording button was easier to